Good morning and welcome to Oceanside, California, home of the iconic Oceanside Pier, the California Surf Museum, Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton, and today, host city of the 2025 Athletic Brewing IRONMAN 70.3 Oceanside. This is the third stop in our 2025 Ironman Pro Series, and alongside the legendary five-time world champion, Craig Alexander, I'm Dee Dee Griesbauer. Crowy, welcome to the show, and you are coming to us live from your home in Australia. What a thrill to have you with us. Before we announce today's top professionals, give us a quick hello and tell us what you're looking forward to most today.
Hey, Dee Dee, how are you? I'm really excited to join you for this one. As you know, early season racing always brings a lot of great storylines, and we're going to see them all unfold over the next few hours. I can't wait.
Absolutely. It is a chilly morning here in Oceanside, and we will get to that as well as some of our top competitors here in Oceanside. It's been an exciting race week as we take a look at our men's professionals queuing up, getting ready to get into the water here at Oceanside. Craig, you've raced here a couple of times. What's this vibe like here in Oceanside?
It's amazing. It's an iconic race. Of course, San Diego is the birthplace of triathlon. I know a lot of the athletes went down to Fiesta Island to visit the monument this week, and it's the start of the season for a lot of the Northern Hemisphere athletes. Of course, it's the third round of the Ironman Pro Series. We've had a couple of races already, but this is the first opportunity for a lot of these athletes. So the nerves are going to be right there.
Yeah, it is surprising because you tend to think, okay, it's a cold swim, that's going to be more challenging, but because of the size of the men's field, the groups tend to be a little bunchier and it's easier to sort of catch on to the back of a pack, and it also being a wetsuit swim, but it's a very physical start as we get ready to send off our men's professionals at the 2025 Athletic Brewing IRONMAN 70.3 Oceanside, and Craig, they're off.
They're off, and that's what an amazing sight that is. You mentioned the swim here. It's in the harbour, which is sheltered, but it can get a little bit of swell through, and it'll be interesting to see with such a large field if there is any separation. We have got, as you mentioned, right off the top of the show, an interesting dynamic, which, you know, a lot of the short course athletes who step up after an Olympic cycle, and I've always felt that this distance definitely favours the short course athletes, and they bring so much to the front end dynamic of this race.
Well, let's talk about a couple of them. We've got Kevin McDowell, Seth Ryder coming up off of his appearance at the Olympics last year. He ought to be up there. And rumor has it, we're going to see a new name in the men. I've been told to watch out for a couple of new names coming up from the draft legal distance. Brock Howell from Canada. He was on the Pan American Mixed Medley Relay Silver back in 2023. He's another name to watch in the swim.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the great things about, you know, the start of a new season. We get some athletes stepping up. Obviously, last year we saw Max Bell from Germany and Justin Reale get in that front group. Good swims set them up for the race. So I think we can expect more of the same today. You know, it is a big field, 70+ athletes, but there's some quality swimmers. You know, we've got Greg Harper racing as well, who led out the Ironman 70.3 Worlds just recently, New Zealand, December last year. He can lay claim to be one of the best swimmers in the sport. And let's not forget Casper Stornes, who's a great one of the Norwegian stablemates. He's a great swimmer. Sam Appleton, Rudy von Berg. So there's a lot of quality at the front of this race.
And let's not forget Ben Canute, also a very strong swimmer. He won here in Oceanside in 2019 as well as 2021. As we take a look at a very, very large lead pack, we have one swimmer off the front, but they are pretty well bunched together here.
Yeah, and that's exactly as you predicted, Dee Dee. I think in a large field, there's always a swimmer or an athlete to fill a gap. If someone drops the feed and a gap starts to open up, there's always someone willing to take up the chase. And it's much harder to create separation. These men are also evenly matched. You mentioned a few of the names who are definitely standout swimmers, but you know, there's always an athlete there who's willing to take up the chase and get back on the feet, and it's much harder to create separation in such a large field. As we see the women take the gun now and head off for their race, I think she'll be up towards the front. And Grace Alexander is another athlete who tends to get to the front of the races. So I think they're three we should look out for, but it'll be interesting to see if with a slightly smaller field than what the men have if there's much more separation, and that's what you would expect to see.
You read my mind there, Craig. I was going to say how much more important is it for the women to find those right feet right out of the gate because it is a smaller field.
Yeah, I think they have to really be on their game mentally, concentrating here. It's, you know, I guess pick your poison. A big field can be a bit rougher at the start, um, but it's, as we mentioned, it's just easier to hold feet, and there's always a hip or a set of feet to get on. I think, as we can see already, some of these ladies are pushing hard and just creating separation early, and I think a lot of these other girls really need to be switched on here mentally to make sure that they don't, put themselves behind the eight ball after the first 200 or 300 meters.
And you can see there some of our pro notable swim cap colors. That violet cap that you see at the top of your screen, that's not going to be Tamara Jewett. That's going to be Grace Alexander in the purple cap. I see the distinctive stroke and green cap of Paula Finley. She's about third set of feet there. Alice Alberts, we didn't really mention Alice. She's another one of those athletes who's a great all-rounder. I don't expect her to be leading the swim, but I think she could be in a chase pack with good company with Lisa Becaris, perhaps Jackie Herring, and Tamara Jewett may be in that group as well.
Yeah, Stephanie, beautiful long stroke there, leading the ladies out, and I think Paul is just in the box seat right here, just sitting sort of second right on her feet. We mentioned about Paula's just overall versatility. She's known as an extremely consistent athlete. I think she's raced here 7 times, and I read that she's never finished worse than 6th place, which is a remarkable statistic, really, and just has no real weaknesses. I mean, as a former Canadian time trial champion on the bike, and just positioned herself beautifully for the start of this race, and yeah, it's setting up very nicely.
Yeah, very well for her. She is definitely one of the heavy favorites today, but she will face some challenges from, for instance, Jackie Herring, Tamara Jewett, also a former champion here, as we take it back to the men's lead pack here at the swim. And again, we still have Magnus Manor in that yellow cap at the front. Talk to me about some of the athletes who are going to have to be careful in this swim on the men's side, notably the 3-time champion here, Lionel Sanders. And without a swim warm-up, that water can be awfully cold for our age groupers. So you had said, Craig, that a good strategy to expose yourself, even if it's not race morning, when you get into town, make sure to get into that water so you know what to prepare for on race morning.
Yeah, I think so, and it helps you make sure you've got the right equipment. We see a lot of these athletes wearing the neoprene caps, and also really rugged up before the start as they get down there. But I always found it helpful personally to get in the water when it was really cold, 10 to 15 minutes before the start. Physiologically, your body adapts, and then you can hop out and get warm. But then if you do it correctly and you time it right, you're ready to go when the gun goes off. As we see the lead men heading towards the finish chute here, Dee Dee, and it looks like it's Greg Harper followed by Magnus Manor, who was, I think, led the swim out last year, and Ben Canute seems to be hot on their heels as well.
Well, to your point, Craig, it's going to be not as interesting who's leading the race, but who missed that pack and what the time gaps are to some of our overall favorites in the race. So you can go ahead and download the IRONMAN app on your phone to get all the tracking information. And of course, we have a live GPS on all of our athletes here as our professional lead men make their way out of Oceanside Harbor, concluding the Roca Swim Course for today.
As we see Greg Harper, his job done for him. He's definitely strung that lead group, Dee Dee, that you mentioned was quite big on the way out to the far turn, but it's thinned down. I want to say half a dozen athletes in that front group, and then about a 10-second gap to the first chase group.
Well, and at the back of that group, I saw the pearly pink cap of Casper Stornes. We missed the chance to see him compete at the 70.3 World Championship as we take a look at our lead swimmer swim split. That's Greg Harper, presented by Wahoo Element Rival at 22:48 for the 1.9K or 1.2 mile swim. Out comes Ben Canute, and so they come. To your point, Craig, the lead 4 included Greg Harper, Magnus Manor, Seth Ryder, and Casper Stornes. Then a very, very small handful of seconds gap back to Brock Howell, who is coming up from the short distance racing. Kevin McDowell, also new to the middle distance racing. Brendan Smith and Ben Canute, Justin Rielli, Sam Appleton, and Miguel Maddox. Jake Burtwhistle, that's a name that we're going to be talking about today. He had a great hit out at the first stop on our Pro Series in Geelong, and a lot of buzz about him coming into a great year. As we come back to the leader in our professional women's race, still on the Roca swim course, this is Steph Clutterbuck out of Great Britain. She leads the women's race here, and it looks from this camera angle like, oh, nope, there's Paula Finley. She is hanging on to every ounce of draft she can get. She is fighting hard. Even at that distance, Craig, you think she's still getting a bit of a benefit from Steph?
She'll be getting a little bit of a benefit, absolutely. And a mental benefit. I think she'll be very positive and uplifted by her swim and her positioning here. Be very excited to be this close to the front of the race. She's no stranger to the front of the race. As we mentioned, she's just a versatile, consistent athlete. Doesn't really have a weakness, but is certainly known for her biking prowess. And I think we're about to see that coming out of T1.
Hard for me to tell, but that may be Jackie Herring on her. Oh no, I'm going to guess. Sorry, I take it back. That is an orange cap, and I'm going to guess that's Kaidi Kivyovja on Paula Finley's feet. So a great swim from her. Steph Clutterbuck also, Craig, a very, very strong cyclist. So we may see a change in the leader with Paula Finley making her way through the Ruvi transition zone. I expect to see her move to the front on the Zoot bike course. But Steph Clutterbuck isn't going to be easy to shake on the bike, is she?
No, she's a great cyclist as well. I think Paula will be a little bit patient on this course. She's raced here 7 times before. She knows that all the elevation gain does come in the back half after mile 25. And I expect her to ride a really even paced race between the front half and the back half. And if she's not able to get away from Steph early on, I just can't see these ladies hanging on to Paula just with her bike prowess.
That is a good point. Again, if you are just tuning in, this is the Athletic Brewing IRONMAN 70.3 Oceanside. I'm Dee Dee Griesbauer alongside Craig Alexander, who's coming to us from his home all the way in Australia. So we appreciate the team at BCC making all of this happen so that we can get some of Craig's expert knowledge and contributions to today's broadcast as we take a look at our notable women. Tamara Jewett, a defending champion here. Paula Finley has won here. Jackie Herring, second overall in the Ironman Pro Series last year. So some really, really great names as Stephanie Clutterbuck makes the final turn in the Roca swim course.
Yeah, great swim by Stephanie. I think the big storyline here, though, is Paula Finley just tucked in nicely into that front group, and she's got A1 positioning here to launch into her strongest discipline.
And again, it won't be a course best, but still good enough for first place. Steph Clutterbuck out of the water in 26 minutes, 12 seconds. So our women's swim leader, Steph Clutterbuck, out of the water first as Paula Finley undoes her wetsuit. And that is Lydia Russell in third place. So a new name to us, Lydia Russell, with a very, very strong swim coming out. Grace Alexander in fourth. She's just 20 seconds down. So to your point, Craig, the women a little bit more spread out as we take a look at Steph Clutterbuck's swim split presented by Wahoo Element Rival. Any surprises to the swim so far, Craig, for the women?
No surprises. I think you predicted that Steph would lead out, and she did. I think the big story is Paula. She's setting this race up nicely. Her strength recently has been the bike. She was the Canadian time trial champion only a year or two ago. And I think she'll be really satisfied with this swim. It is interesting, even though we can see the sun's out and it looks like a nice day, the water temp and the ambient temp is still a little cold. And it will take some of these athletes a little longer to warm up than others. So the first few miles on the bike are always interesting to watch in Oceanside. Looking
at Christian Blumenfeld, the last time we saw Christian in this position, he was he was vomiting a few times back on the highways of Kona, but he looks well in control here.
He looks smooth, doesn't he? Last year, of course, he was bouncing between formats and distances. He had a few issues, I think, in a few races getting back on the time trial bike, but he looks pretty well dialed in. As I think that's
Lionel.
who we got. We've got big Lionel. We've got the Lion on the screen, and he looks nice and smooth too. So he's always got a little bit of upper body movement and a head wobble, but we know he's putting down some serious power through that bike. So for some reason, we're getting an extreme close-up of Christian's front wheel here. So hopefully he hasn't
flat.
got...
Is it a little soft?
It does look a little soft, doesn't it? So that's going to be interesting. Yeah, this is awful news for the race because this is exactly what we wanted to see. Christian up the front fighting for the win. So this is just bad luck, terrible luck for Christian as we see that front group, which has got about 6 or 8 athletes. I think Rudy von Borg was in there, Justin Reali was in there, Gustav Eden, Jacob Birtwistle, as you mentioned. So this is just shocking luck for Christian. I hate to see this.
And, this is something we talk about technology and bike riding that we don't see as much anymore. You get flats, and a lot of these riders are on tubeless tires. So there's a sealant inside of that tire that if you do get a small puncture, the sealant on the inside will refill it, and you should be able to keep riding. Either he's gotten a significant puncture or he's having a really significant issue with the entire tire. This isn't just a small puncture, because that would have been plugged by the sealant. There is neutral support out there, but that group isn't going to do him any favors. They're gone. Out of the saddle, potentially looking to move past Steph Clutterbuck. I don't know if there's a little bit of a gap opening up between Steph and the rider ahead of her, but Jackie trying to make her way past. Not a great spot to be trying to make a pass, and it looks like Jackie is struggling to get by her. But people will remember, if you're a fan of Jackie Herring, she rolled her ankle while on holiday with her family after the 70.3 Worlds in Topol, and it really set her back in her run training. She wasn't able to run for several weeks, but again, Craig, as well as anybody else that sometimes that works as a little bit of a benefit, because she definitely put in some extra bike miles during that time, and it looks like her biking in this early season is super strong and steady. And I'm Dee Dee Griesbauer alongside Craig Alexander. This is the 2025 Athletic Brewing IRONMAN 70.3 Oceanside. We are with our lead men. That is Jake Birtwistle at the front. He was assessed a blue card and will have to stand down. Now, a revised 3-minute penalty. A year ago, that would have been 5 minutes. So that's the only bit of bright spot for Jake Birtwistle. I don't believe that he's served that yet. He will serve that outside of T2 at the next penalty tent, as Justin Reali continues to attack, moving back to the front here. And this is Cameron Worf. He is back. He was back with Lionel Sanders trying to make some headway, but from a 3-minute, 11-second gap out of the swim, Lionel had only cut that down to 2:47, Craig. So it's not looking like Lionel is going to be able to get it done today, as Cameron Worf doing more Cameron Worf things, talking to the camera.
He's such a character. Looks like he's just handing off the tool that he used to tighten his aero. Only Cam Worf could have loose handlebars and sit on 450 watts. He's an absolute freak. So interesting little byplay going on here between Cam and the mobile bike mechanic. But interesting that you mentioned before, Dee Dee. I mean, it's pretty much been Justin Reali and Jake Birtwistle on the front of this bike group for the last 30 miles. So they're the ones really keeping the pace high. You've mentioned there's been no inroads at all, really, from athletes further down the field. And we sort of suspected that might be the case in the first 25 miles because average speeds are so high. It's relatively flat and fast. All the groups are moving quick. I did think there might be some sort of progress up through the field by Cam and Lionel and the like towards the back half. So that hasn't been the case, though. They're sitting 245 to 250 back.
When you talk about the race dynamic of Justin and Jake sort of firing shots at the front, at what point do they realize, hey, I'm just burning matches and these attacks aren't having impact on the overall group and the guys are sort of sitting back, biding their time for the run? Or is this a strategy that you think could end up paying dividends?
Well, it's interesting as we see another little gap open there up this climb, and it depends. Are the guys behind them really on the ropes, or are they just riding steady? I think it comes down to just executing your plan. Sometimes you can sit on the front and hurt hurt the athletes in the group by just making it a touch more uncomfortable than they would like it. So I think Justin in particular is thinking that's his best chance to get a high finish here, is really take the sting out of some of the more noted runners in that group. Interesting that Jacob Burwistle's on the front there, because he is one of the noted runners, but it's kind of what we used to see Alistair Brownlee do all the time, isn't it? Just get on the front and really want to hurt every other athlete in that group. So it's great to see.
Another pair of really great runners, Paula Findlay and Jackie Herring. A couple of question marks about Jackie Herring, though, coming off an ankle injury at the end of last year. Certainly put a bit of a crimp in her run training. But when you're as talented as an athlete as Jackie Herring, if you're going to miss any training, it's going to be in your strength, and she's going to get that back really quickly. So it's, you can look at it two ways. You can look at it, is her run training hampered? Will she be able to put out the kind of run split that we're used to seeing from Jackie Herring? Or because it already was her strength, she's not going to skip a beat? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, it could go either of those ways. I think often when we have an injury and we top up our training in the other disciplines, the discipline that we don't train doesn't suffer as much as we think. And in fact, if she's biking much better because of the extra mileage and the volume and the intensity that she's put in, maybe this ride hasn't hurt her as much as it otherwise would have with that extra bike mileage. So the run will still be there for Jackie. I don't know. It's hard to predict if she'll have her best run or a career run, but I think we will see a strong run from her because, as you mentioned, she's just spent a lot of the last few months sort of topping up those bike miles and doing a lot more of a bike focus because of that run injury.
And here we have our first look at Lisa Bakaris. We've been talking about her throughout much of the morning. Knew she would feature into this bike course. She has on the back of Grace Alexander, who is on the back of Jackie Herring. So Lisa Bakaris now up out of the saddle, going to move past both of these women at the tail end of this climb. And just an update from our men's race, even though we are sitting with our women. Cam Wurf doing more Cam Wurf things, which is riding his bike really fast, only in this particular case it was through the speed zone. So word from the course for Cam Wurf fans, he has been disqualified for a violation of the speed zone through the military base there. So Cameron Wurf is out. Also hearing Connor Weaver also disqualified for a speed violation, as well as men's bib number 68, who is, bear with me, Juna Liatin from Finland, also a speed violation. They will be removed, but that is our word from the course, so we'll make sure that that is official, but that is our word on the course as we come back to Lisa Bakaris, who looks very smooth, very, very powerful rider. I don't think she looks quite as quiet and composed as Paula Findlay does, but she certainly has made her mark here on this Zoot bike course.
As we get our first look at the Lion for a little while, and he looks like he always looks, a little bit of a shoulder roll, a little bit of rock and roll going on, but face looks composed, relaxed. Be great to get a split on him. Last split, they were saying he was a minute 25 behind Justin Reale. So if that's the case, it's been an unbelievable ride. And we expect nothing less from Lionel. I mean, he's just a great athlete. He's been one of the best in the world at this distance and the Ironman distance for the last 10 years. So as we scoot back up the road to look at Justin Reale, and he's still looking great too. So I do feel this is a premeditated move to keep the pace high in the back half of this ride and to get a little gap, knowing the quality and the caliber of runners that he has got in that group just behind him.
Yeah, no surprise to see Justin Reale putting his mark on this Zoot bike course. Last year, he finished 8th overall. Let's see if he can improve on that. There are some really, really talented runners in the chase group behind him, but he certainly has done his job today on the bike.
Absolutely. He's kept everyone honest. He's kept at a very high average speed, and he's definitely shaped the dynamic of this race.
As we watch him weave and wind his way through the closing feet here of the Zoot bike course. This is the Athletic Brewing IRONMAN 70.3 Oceanside. I'm Dee Dee Griesbauer alongside Craig Alexander, and our men making their way into the Rouvy transition zone.
It is tough as we see Justin dismount, make his way into T2. I think that was Rudy von Berg, and showing his experience getting to the front of the group. And, I don't think you can win by, but it certainly can set up a great run. You don't want to waste 5 or 10 seconds with these guys. When, Casper Storns is going to come out at 3:10 per K pace, probably even quicker.
Oh,
Not sure
here's a big error here. I can't see a bib number there, but whoever it was thought that the dismount line. That was a strategic error there, as Rudy Van Berg is into transition in second place. He's 31 seconds down of Justin Rielli. So that is the work that Justin did, making his way to Ruvi transition zone, chased by Rudy Van Berg. But that one athlete who dismounted early saw some perhaps caution tape, I don't know, on some rough pavement, thought it was the dismount line. As we look now at this camera angle, and for the first time in an awfully long time, Paula Finley relinquishing the lead, looking over her shoulder saying, Lisa, who'd you bring with you? But right now it is just Lisa Becaris who is charged to the front of this race.
It's quality bike riding by Lisa. Incredibly high cadence she's maintained throughout. I didn't see this coming. I'm not sure if this is a tactic by Paula or whatever, but let's give Lisa some credit. I didn't predict this. You mentioned that she'd be a factor, Dee. I didn't think she'd get to the front of the race. And I think this is, I don't want to say it's a career best performance, but I don't know if she's led a race of this quality with athletes of the caliber of Jackie and Paula. So I think it speaks volumes to the bike ride that she's laid down here today. Just coming up on the shoulder of Grace here, so that Lisa has been the one who's changed the dynamics of this race. She's brought it all back together. As we see Jackie, I think she's still tucked in on the back of that group too. So great dynamic in the women's race. We saw Paula off the front, created some separation, but then Lisa came through and just closed that gap right back up and dragged Grace and Jackie right back into contention. So amazing ride by Lisa. Just incredible cadence there.
Full credit both to Grace and to Jackie for taking the bait when Lisa came through and realizing that was their opportunity to get back to the front of the race, because through the climbing section, they were left behind, and they owe at least a cold athletic brew to Lisa Becaris for bringing them back up.
They both look great. Jackie does look a little better, slightly higher leg turnover, a little more relaxed. And we saw Jackie, I want to say she's run a 1:14 or 1:15. Run split in a 70.3. So she is a quality runner, and I guess last year she got most of her great results in Ironman, although she still did have a couple of podiums at St. George and Chattanooga as they swap a few words there. And talk to me, Dee, what's going through their mind here? They are.
The funny thing is that for anyone else, I think getting passed by Jackie Herring, you would be slightly disheartened, but not Lisa Becaris. She is having a career day out there, and she is enjoying this moment. And I think being an athlete who has struggled with injuries, and a lot of injuries, she's had a lot of surgeries. She's had labral hip tears in her hips that have been repaired. She had compartment syndrome in a shin. She had surgery on that. She has sat on the sidelines for many a season and many a race, and I think with that comes an incredible sort of gratitude for the ability to just be healthy and be happy and be racing. And so while she has relinquished the lead to Jackie Herring, I think she's still happy as Larry out there.
She can see the two ladies up the road as we see. Well, it was inevitable.
Oh my gosh. I would have told you at 3.5+ minutes back off the bike that Lionel was not having his day, but let's take a look at the Mortal Hydration optimized results run splits for Lionel Sanders through 5.6 miles. That is average of 3:21 per minute Ks. Estimated time at the next split, race clock 3:10:36, but Lionel changing the dynamic of this race, not on the bike, but on the run. We've got Seth Ryder taking the bait, trying to go with him. Rudy Von Berg, you can see he's kind of given into it now, and Gustav Eden looks like he's just had about enough.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think you often see when an athlete catches a group and tries to blow straight through. Seth feeling pretty good. He's jumped straight on Lionel's shoulders. The other two will just be in their rhythm. They'll try not to let this gap ride out too much. Gustav's, he's a very choreographed and orchestrated athlete. He'll be sticking to his splits, but you talk about in the women's race, the dynamic on the bike, Didi, I want to talk about the dynamic on the men's bike. Was it a luxury for Lionel to be able to ride on his own and stick to his numbers, where we had in that front group Justin Reale just aggressive, putting in surges, taking these guys out of their comfort zone, maybe over their limit a little bit. Maybe it's coming back to bite them a little bit. That, you know, at some point you got to pay the piper. Lionel he just rode his ride, and now he's running his run. And I feel like these other boys, they were sort of following Justin Reale, who was the Pied Piper on the bike ride, and maybe they're paying for it a little bit now.
Yeah, they could. You know, you've got to pay the nothing comes for free, right? So answering some of those surges that Justin Reale was throwing down, certainly Justin Reale is paying the price for it. He's fallen back. He's in 8th place through 7.3 miles. Again, we didn't expect him to necessarily feature on the podium, but you know, he's continuing to make improvements in his run. A strong bike definitely established the dynamic on the bike.
As we get a little visual on Jackie Herring, and it seems like she's still in the lead. Be interesting to see what that gap is back to Paula Finley, and it looks like that lead stretched out a little bit now. So Paula was making a bit of a charge, but Jackie seems to be holding strong. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? She's had that ankle injury, Jackie, and it probably caused her to focus more on the biking, but that seems to have helped her run here. And biking well always is a good recipe for running well.
And yeah, the women about to make their way to the turnaround to head out on the second lap of this Hoka run course. Paula Finley looking fantastic. Interesting that both of these women at the front of this race have made coaching changes over the off season. So a new stimulus, athletes who have been incredibly successful last year, but just evidence as to what a change in stimulus can do for an athlete.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we talked about that earlier. Sometimes you just need a different voice or a different set of eyes. Sometimes it's not even about the coach. It's just about you and where you're at in your career and in your life. So it's not unusual to see athletes make changes even after having great seasons, changing the team around them. So yeah, Paula's done that. And it seems to be working well for her. She's as consistent as ever. As we get to look at Gustav here, just easing his way up on Rudy's shoulder. So this is, you know, you mentioned earlier, Didi, you talked about, you know, Gustav coming back from the personal situation and that terrible Achilles injury. And it's a challenge, mentally, it's a challenge, but all athletes go through that. It's part of, in the end, what makes them more resilient and gives them that mental armory that they can perform when they're in shape and when they're fit on the biggest days and on the most important days. It's all part of the journey, and it's great to see Gustav back. As we see Lionel get back onto the strand for the last time and head towards the finish, that side-on shot, I really think, just highlights how quick he is moving across the ground. He still looks great, still fluent, still moving along, and the real battle is for the podium positions, second and third. It's a fight between Rudy von Berg, who's no stranger to the podium here, and Gustav Eden. So it looks like, again, we get a look that, yeah, Rudy's he's just pulling away from Gustav now. So with, you know, a little over a K to go, you would think that Rudy has got this second place on the podium in his back pocket. I'm going to say it, Didi, I think he's got it in his pocket.
You're calling it.
I'm going to call it.
I don't disagree with you. He takes a look over the shoulder. Not far to go now, but even less far to go for Lionel Sanders. I tell you, I'll be the first to admit, I doubted him. I doubted him on the bike. You know, when he came out of the water 3:11 down, that was a much bigger deficit than what we saw him have last year at only 90 seconds. He really only clawed back about 20 seconds throughout the entire bike course, which I think was unusual. But man, did he go to town once he got onto this Hoka run course, and he never looked back. I don't think I've ever seen Lionel run the way he's run today, and maybe to your point, it's because he had a little bit more of a patient bike. He was on his own for most of the day out on the bike course, setting up this brilliant run.
Yeah, it's possible, and it's going to be interesting to see what all these guys have to say after the race, because I was like you when I saw that deficit out of the swim. I thought, wow, that's almost twice the deficit of last year. So it looked like it was going to be a tough mountain to climb. But again, he just gets to his work, Lionel. He doesn't give up, regardless of the race situation. It's always 100% effort all the time. And I'll be interested to hear from some of the athletes who are in that front group what the dynamic was like with Justin Reale just being so aggressive, particularly the last 25 miles, whether that in the end maybe burnt a few too many matches or maybe not. Maybe just Lionel just executed a perfect race.
Lionel Sanders, he was well back out of the swim. Had a 3-minute, 11-second deficit to the leaders out of the swim. Only clawed back about 20 seconds throughout the entirety of the bike course. But man, did he own this Hoka run course, and he makes his way on to the magic carpet. Your 2025 Athletic Brewing IRONMAN 70.3 Oceanside champion once again for the fourth time, Lionel Sanders.
And doesn't he love breaking the tape? He's had plenty of practice. Every win means a lot to Lionel for different reasons, but
Lionel Sanders from Canada.
He's certainly laid down the gauntlet early season, early doors, as you say. But that's a great performance by Lionel.
And we've got the fist pump, nodding his head as if he knew it all along. It's hard to bet. I had some conversations during the race week as to who my picks were. It's hard to bet against Lionel and Oceanside, but I tell you, Craig, earlier today, I did bet against Lionel and Oceanside as we welcome our second place finisher today, Rudy Von Berg. As we take a look at our men's champion, Lionel Sanders, his run split presented by Wahoo Element Rival, 1:11.28. Didn't get that 1:10 split, but man, what a brilliant performance from Lionel today, with Rudy Von Berg coming home in second.
Yeah, just another world-class performance from Rudy Von Berg as well. As we see Gustav Iden cross the line here.
Gustav, there's your podium.
Hard-fought third place for Gustav Iden, and a big smile on that young man's face to realize that after a long, tough year with injury, personal loss, and a bit of struggle, he is back doing the things that Gustav does best. And while we celebrate our men's podium, to look back at our women's race, Danielle Lewis at 7.3 miles has made the pass on Lisa Beccaris. Lisa Beccaris falls to fourth place with Danielle Lewis now 2 minutes down of Jackie Herring and just a minute 30 down of Paula Findlay, as our men gather themselves behind the finish line and get ready to celebrate with a nice cold athletic brew. A change in leaders as Paula Findlay, halfway through the second loop of this Hoka run course, has gone past Jackie Herring. Jackie trying to take the bait and stay on the shoulder of Paula Findlay, but that split was over 30 seconds just at the turnaround point, and they're just at the end of the beach section here, Craig. So Paula really on a move here, or is it Jackie fading?
Well, it's hard to know, but it looks like both ladies have just been holding pace. I mean, it's just been an entertaining and interesting race. We've seen some yo-yoing, we've seen some attacks on the bike. We saw Lisa Beccaris bring the group back up, and just like with Lionel, Paula's an experienced racer. She's no stranger to being in these positions. I think she knows what card to play at what time. She looks composed, and we've got ourselves a run battle in the women's race.
This is what we would hope for. Jackie Herring and Paula Findlay head-to-head at the front of this women's race. And Danielle Lewis, we had seen her prior to Lionel's interview. She has moved into second place and sits a minute 30 down. So she is moving really, really well. Continues through most segments to be the fastest mover on the course. But will she run out of real estate to threaten for first or second, but right now safely in third?
Paula looks like she's coming on strong, though. So, I mean, I'm not going to jinx her, because I did say on the bike I thought it was a winning move when she took off. So I might just put the cue in the rack on that one.
Although I will say, I do think that Paula is, whether or not the paces are actually changing, I think this is the best she's looked. Her shoulders were a bit up at the end of lap one, but it looks like she's relaxed into her stride and looks well. I wouldn't say she's running with confidence, because anyone trying to hold off Jackie Herring in their right mind shouldn't be confident, but Paula Findlay looking very, very good. But Jackie Herring has her sights on her, and that is one thing about this course. Being the hunter her is the power position when you can see that athlete. So a great battle at the front of our women's race. And then, of course, in third place, we have Danielle Lewis, who has moved up quite a bit through the bike, but really here on this Hoka run course where Danielle Lewis has made her mark and inserted herself onto the podium. She is moving really, really well. She was the winner of Ironman Lake Placid a year ago. That was probably her standout performance. She definitely, if I was to put her in a bucket, more of an Ironman bucket than a 70.3 bucket, but she was 4th at 70.3 Chattanooga last year, 6th at 70.3 St. George, 5th here at Oceanside a year ago. Just struggled a little bit, Craig, in World Championship season. She was 11th in Nice. I think that probably for her probably felt like a little bit of a disappointment, and then fell all the way to 37th in Topaz. So struggling to the World Championship events, but I think looking to script a much better season this year to put herself in contention to move up in the Ironman Pro Series. But it's not too hard for Paula Findlay. She is going to win for a second time here in Oceanside, her first win back in 2021. And to your point, Craig, she's raced here 7 times, never finished worse than 6th place. She's going to do a lot better than 6th place today. Paula Findlay, we thought we thought we'd see a breakaway on the bike. It didn't happen, but she was patient, and it has paid dividends for her as Danielle Lewis now also down on the strand running for home.
It's going to be interesting to hear from Paula after the race, whether this was part of the grand plan or she just played the card she was dealt as the race unfolded. Typically, we would normally see her lead into T2. She didn't do that today, but she didn't sort of lose her composure. All that experience came into play. I mean, let's not forget this is a lady who represented Canada at the Olympics all the way back in 2012, was known as one of the best runners in the sport back then. She's just an all-round, versatile, consistent athlete. And that stat that you mentioned, like 8 races here, this will be her second win. Nothing worse than 6th place is remarkable.
And now she runs on to the magic carpet for the second time in her career from Canada, your Athletic Brewing IRONMAN 70.3 Oceanside champion, Paula Findlay.
She loves Ironman, Paula Findlay, your Athletic Brewing IRONMAN 70.3 women's champion.
Yeah.
And right behind
You know,
her,
Craig, we said before the race started that Paula was the strong favorite. She flirted, with maybe not being because of this woman. Second place from the USA, Jackie Herring, gave Paula all she could out on the run. These women, fierce competitors, but very good friends as well.
Yeah, they're great friends. I'm sure they're happy for each other's races. As we see Danielle Lewis come up the chute, this has ended up being a really closely fought contest. And yeah, we did say on paper that Paula was the favourite, but we don't race on paper. And she ended up getting the job done maybe a little differently to how we thought.
As we take a look at our champions run split presented by Wahoo Element Rival, Paula Findlay, 1:20.11. Very solid running for Paula Findlay as Danielle Lewis makes the peel off of the course towards the finish chute. The best place in any Ironman race is that arrow that says to finish. She swam a little bit back, biked strong, moved herself up a few positions, but really shined here on this Hoka Marathon course. Danielle Lewis takes home. Whoop, that's not Danielle Lewis. That's someone in a kit that looks like Danielle Lewis, but here comes your third place finisher rounding out our podium here at the Athletic Brewing IRONMAN 70.3 Oceanside, Danielle Lewis. At our overall points series point standings after 3 races, Magnus Ditlev stands atop the leaderboard. Big movers, Braden Curry moving up 14 spots into 5th place. Jake Birtwistle, another big mover, moves up 11 spots despite a penalty today. He sits in 2nd place overall. Dominic Sovica into the top 10, moving up 30 spots into 9th place. Everybody else moving down a spot or 2. In the women's race, in the women's points series race, Anne Reichman sits in first place by virtue of her win in Ironman South Africa a year ago. Marta Sanchez in second. No real significant changes to the women's point standings after today. Just a 70.3, not enough points for the women to topple the Ironman points from a week ago in South Africa, Craig, but so much racing still to go. Athletes, to your point, race to your strengths, be flexible. We're going to probably see Christian Blumenfeld have to factor in another race if he wants to win the Ironman Pro Series. But a lot of great performances that athletes can be proud of today in terms of their pursuit of the overall win at the 2025 Ironman Pro Series. Thank you for joining our broadcast today. For Craig Alexander, I'm Dee Dee Griesbauer. Goodbye from the 2025 Athletic Brewing IRONMAN 70.3 Oceanside.
This copyrighted broadcast of World Triathlon Corporation may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without express written consent of World Triathlon Corporation.